self-pollination cannot take place in unisexual flowers because they have either the male reproductive part or the female reproductive part. So such flowers are dependent on cross-pollination, and cross-pollination in turn needs pollinators for pollination. Birds and insects help in pollination. Insects, while having nectar from a male flower, the pollen grains get stuck onto their body, and when the same insects sit on a female flower, these pollen grains get transferred to the female parts of the flower, thus bringing about pollination. So these flowers, where the pollination is brought about by insects, are known as entomophilous flowers, where entomo means insect and philous means affinity. Now, I know that most of the people do not eat to live, but they live to eat. Food is very important for survival, and we get our food mostly from the plants. But what about the insects? Insects depend on food that are formed inside the flowers. And these food are known as nectar, which is a sweet substance present inside the flowers. Now, to attract insects and birds, flowers should contain a large quantity of these food. Now tell me, where would you like to eat? Would you like to eat in this fancy restaurant? Or would you like to eat in this roadside dhaba? Well, yes, you would like to eat in this fancy, well-decorated restaurant. So similarly, even insects love having food from these bright and big and colorful flowers like these. So, to attract insects and birds, a flower needs to contain an abundance of nectar, it needs to have a big size, and it needs to be very colorful. Now, what about small flowers like these? How do they attract insects? Well, these small flowers, they form a bunch, and that is how they attract insects. See, these are all bunch of very small flowers. And see, the insects are getting attracted to these big bunches of flowers. Sunflower and dahlia. These are the two biggest flowers that you have seen. Now, what if I tell you that they are actually one of the smallest flowers? Would you believe me? Well, actually, this big flower that you can see is an accumulation of smaller flowers. So, smaller flowers bunch together to form bigger flowers like these. So, these bigger flowers are known as false flowers. Now, what about colorless flowers like these? This is a tuberose flower. So, how do these flowers attract insects? Because we studied that insects get attracted by beautiful, vibrant colors. Well, I know you would like to prefer having your dinner in this fancy, well-decorated restaurant, but once in a while when you pass these roadside dhaba, the aroma and the wonderful smell tempts you inside and it tempts you into having food from here. So similarly, flowers have a beautiful smell to attract insects only, because insects can sense smell. That is why tuberose, in spite of being white, attracts a lot of insects for pollination because of its sweet smell. Now, entomophilous flowers not only have special size, shape, smell of flowers, they also have modifications of pollen grains. Pollen grains are modified to become spiny or sticky, so that when the insects go to the flowers to carry nectar, these pollen grains can easily stick to their body. So to attract insects, flowers should contain food. It should have a big size. It should be bright, colorful, and also have a beautiful smell. Apart from this, they also should have modifications of pollen grains. Now, to attract birds, flowers should be same as the entomophilous flowers, but these flowers do not have any scent because birds cannot smell the scent of flowers. Another modification that these flowers have is that they have modified pitcher-shaped nectaries, so that these birds can easily consume nectar through their beaks. So these flowers have big, bright colors. They are big in size, but they do not have any scent, and they have modified pitcher-shaped nectaries. These flowers are known as ornithophilous flowers, where ornitho means birds and philous means affinity. So these ornithophilous flowers modify themselves so that they can be pollinated by the birds.